So, I'll say it again. The people in charge are not your ally. Let's take a look at the transatlantic slave trade. But first, let me just say, I am not belittling any group of culture's experience. I'm meant to offend, only educate, and I do not want to take away from what happened to any one particular group of people with this video. Alright, if we accurately named the government, it would be something Orwellian like the Ministry of Half-Truths or the Ministry of Propaganda. So that school would have you believe that the entirety of slavery was African slaves were kidnapped or bought from the west coast of Africa, transported over here to North America, South America, Brazil, Central America, and forced slavery, which is true, but it's a very partial part of the story. Now, whenever you think about what we were taught in the transatlantic slave trade, it was a triangle, right? Africa, New World, Europe, up top. Why was this? Well, it's because they were trading goods as we were taught, but the goods were also the same thing they were picking up in Africa. It was chattel, right? Slaves. And I'm going to show you that today. So have you guys heard of the Barbary slave trade? Basically, since Roman times, like the north coast of Africa has been known for slaving. And the same time that the transatlantic slave trade was going on, so you had Africans being transported over here to North and South America, you had an equally as large, possibly even larger slave market over in North Africa, where European and white slaves were the criteria to be slaves, and they were being traded. So they're going to Africa and picking up black slaves to bring them to America. And then they say that they were taking white slaves from England, France, Spain, Italy, and I'm sure they were. But do you guys really think that they would go back from America to either Europe or Africa with no cargo? Absolutely not. They were taking slaves from this part of the realm. So put yourself in the mind state, right? You are a slaver, and that's how you get paid, is transporting people from one place to the next. And you've been to Europe, North Africa, and then America, and dropped off, African slaves in America. Would you go back across the Atlantic, the longest part of your trip, empty-handed, when you could just grab red natives? That was what we're told, but also likely black and white people, natives here as well, and take them back to Africa, to the largest white slave market in the entire realm for 2,000 years now? I mean, yeah, absolutely, that's what you would do, and I'm sure that's what was done. Oh yeah, one more thing. Meanwhile, when the African slaves were being brought over here to the United States and North and South America, the Barbary states in the United States, the newly formed United States, were close allies. So go figure, right? They're bringing slaves from Africa over here to America. We're allied with the North African Barbary states, where the slave trade is predominantly white, the same way it was predominantly black here in the United States. All the history in North America is completely whitewashed, right? So we do get some truths, but they're half-truths always. We never get the story. So you got to think should have been called the Transatlantic slave trade, because you had black folks coming over here. I'm sure you had white folks going over there, and then you had probably both going a little bit of every way, but Europe as well, Central America, South America. They were just moving around people who looked different than other regions where they took them to. So yeah, I mean, it's not a race thing. This is just some evil people running a global market, and to think that they wouldn't have taken people back from America to Africa, the biggest market in the realm at the time, when that's their job, and they wouldn't do it because of you guys think these kidnappers, physical, mental abusers, likely murderers, and salesmen in human well-being and life would not pick up people at a stop in America over race or moral issues, convictions? Get real, dude. Get real. It should have been the Transatlantic slave trade. It was a triangle. They were just moving people to different parts of the realm. All of us. But here in America, black folks absolutely got it entirely. You know, the worst, almost entirely. There were white slaves. In the original 13 colonies, there were both black and white slave owners, as well as both black and white slaves. And they've whitewashed this through calling the white slaves and the Irish and whatnot indentured servants or sharecroppers, but let's get real about it, right? It's just a lighter toned slave as well. And if you guys haven't realized, we are still slaves out here, and they've done it through consumerism. Open your eyes, y'all.